How did I become a dietitian and how can you? This video is going to tell you how. Before we start, hi, my name is Katey. I am a registered dietitian and certified personal trainer. My goal with this channel is to help you achieve your best health, whatever that looks like. If you're new, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel so that you can stay a part of the community and continue to learn more. All right, so let's dive in. Now, this video is a little bit different than my usual videos. This video is specifically for learning how to become a registered dietitian in Canada. Don't worry, I will get back to my normal programming, but I thought this video would be helpful because I do have a lot of people asking me how they can become a dietitian in Canada and what the training actually is. So first things first, let's start off with what is a registered dietitian. A registered dietitian is a regulated professional that specializes in food and nutrition. In particular, they are experts in medical nutrition therapy, which is a professional practice that is highly regulated. Now, dietitians work in a lot of different environments, and you may or may have not met a dietitian yourself. They work in hospitals, private practices, sport medicine clinics, public health, media, on sports teams, food management, business management, and so many other things. Like I mentioned, dietitians are unique in that they are a regulated profession. They are the only regulated nutrition profession out there. What this means is that we have to follow a specific code of ethics and code of conduct and must achieve a very specific level of training in order to conduct, again, what's known as medical nutrition therapy. This allows us to work with various client populations on various conditions. So while anyone can call themselves a nutritionist, only people that have the proper training and are registered with the college of their province can call themselves a registered dietitian and have RD at the end of their name. In the United States, they may also call themselves registered dietitian nutritionist, so RDN, but in Canada, it is registered dietitian. All right, so now what does it take to become a registered dietitian? Becoming a dietitian looks different depending on where you are in Canada, but the overall theme is the same. First things first, you're going to need to complete a 4-year undergraduate science degree in nutrition and dietetics. After this, you're going to need to complete what's called your practicum hours. This is the time when you apply what you learned in school to the real world. So it's not just theory, but you also develop hands-on skills. Your practicum placements will be in a variety of different settings. A lot of the times they are in clinical settings, so for example in hospitals or private practices, but you'll also do rotations in public health, management, and special electives that you choose. Now here's where things get a little bit different depending on the person. You can either complete a 1-year practicum, which is basically just the internship training, the hands-on skill development, or you can complete a 2-year master's degree that has an integrated internship in it. And I'll talk about the differences in a minute. Now, after you've completed this training, then you qualify to write what's known as the CDRE, or the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam. The best way to think of this is like your final board exam. Once you pass this exam, then you can register with any college that you're in the province of. So for example, I'm in Ontario, so I'm registered with the College of Dietitians of Ontario. Or for example, if you're in Alberta, then you would register with the College of Dietitians of Alberta. Being registered with this college ensures that only people who have the proper training and education can call themselves a dietitian, and helps to regulate the practice to make sure that everyone is maintaining the proper level of conduct required to be a dietitian, and that they're practicing safely and ethically. And then after all of this, you are officially a registered dietitian. In terms of what it takes to be a dietitian, the process takes between about 5 to 7 years. So now that you know the general process of becoming a dietitian, we'll talk about each step. So as I mentioned, the first thing you need to do is complete an undergraduate degree. The one thing to keep in mind though is you can't just complete any science degree. It has to be from an accredited program, meaning that it has been approved as a program to train dietitians. It's the same concept as if you were to go to a medical school. It needs to be accredited to make sure that it has the proper education as well as training to become a medical doctor. There are a ton of different programs in Canada that are accredited, so you can become a dietitian in a variety of different provinces. Now, some are fully integrated, meaning that you have the education and the practicum training put together. Then you have partially integrated programs, which are a little bit of both. And then finally, we have non-integrated, which means that you complete your undergraduate degree, you graduate, and then you can apply to do a practicum training or a master's degree. So what I did was I did my undergraduate degree, and then I applied to an integrated master's degree, which had both a master's degree as well as the practicum training training in it. But depending on where you are and what you want to do, you may want to choose a fully integrated program or a non-integrated program. So I'm going to give you a list of all the schools to date, so in January 2024, that offer these programs. So here are the schools that have fully integrated programs. Okay, so first we have the University of British Columbia. They have a fully integrated program that is a Bachelor of Science in Food, Nutrition, and Health. From the University of Alberta, they have a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Food Science, Dietetics specialization. University of Saskatchewan also has a program known as the Bachelor of Science in Nutrition program that is fully integrated. In Ontario, fully integrated programs are not as common, but the University of Ottawa does have a program. One thing to note though is that it is in French, so you do need to be French speaking. Quebec actually has a couple different programs. So McGill University has a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition. The University of Montreal has a French version of the program, as well as Laval University. In New Brunswick, the University of Moncton also has a bachelor's degree in nutrition, and again, it is French speaking. Now, in the East Coast, there actually are a couple programs that are partially integrated. So these include Katey University, Mount St. Vincent University, St. Francis Xavier University, and the University of Prince Edward Island. Finally, we have non-integrated programs, which are most popular in Ontario, which is where I'm from. But there are a couple other provinces that do offer them as well. And these include the University of Manitoba, Brescia University College. Just one thing to note is that Brescia University College will be called Western University. It's getting incorporated into Western in May 2024. So this is actually the program that I did. Toronto Metropolitan University, which used to be called Ryerson University, also has a great program, and the University of Guelph. Like I mentioned, I actually did my undergraduate degree at Brescia University College, which is part of Western, and it was the honors specialization in nutrition and dietetics program, and I really did love it. But the other schools are also awesome too, and I know a lot of great successful people that attended those as well. So now that you have an idea of the different schools that you can attend, what are the topics that you're going to learn? In order to be a dietitian, you actually have to wear a lot of different hats, and you have to be able to work in a lot of different environments. So because of that, you're going to take a lot of different courses. Now, one thing that's always a shocker to a lot of people is the requirement for knowing chemistry. So if you are in high school right now, please make sure you take your chemistry seriously, because you're going to be taking a lot of chemistry courses throughout your entire undergraduate degree. But some of the courses that you might take in your undergraduate degree include general chemistry, organic chemistry, biochemistry, also microbiology is really important, physiology and metabolism. So you need to understand how nutrients work in our body and how different health conditions arise. There's going to be a lot of just general nutrition courses on different topics. Clinical nutrition's paramount. You're going to take a lot of clinical nutrition, public health, different management courses. Some dietitians do work in food management, particularly making sure that the food in certain institutions, such as a hospital or long-term care home, have nutritionally adequate meals. Also, you'll definitely have to take courses on research methods and statistics to be able to understand different research studies. And then a lot of other courses that you might want to take as an elective, or particular topics that you're specifically interested in. Like I mentioned, because it is a science program, there are a lot of science courses. So it's a little bit of a combination of sciences, it's a little combination of medicine, and then it's a combination of other types of things such as sociology and psychology and different aspects of health. Now, if you are in a fully integrated program, you're going to have training within the years that you're in your undergrad. These programs are very competitive to get into, meaning that they only accept a certain number of people and the groups are quite small. If you decide to do a non-integrated program, your class sizes are likely going to be bigger because they accept more people, but it becomes more competitive when you graduate and want to apply to your practicum training. So at the end of the day, both types of programs are competitive in their own right. It just depends on which one you want to do. Now, because as I mentioned, the fully integrated programs have the training in there, I'm not going to really talk about that very much. So the rest of the video is mostly going to focus on if you're in a non-integrated program, meaning that you did the undergraduate degree and now you're going to do the training. So once you've graduated, now you have to decide whether or not you're going to do a 1-year practicum or you're going to do a master's degree. So first we'll talk about the 1-year post-degree practicum. If you do, again, the non-integrated programs, which I find most people that at least I know do, maybe it's because I'm in Ontario, and you decide that you're going to apply to just the practicum, you don't want to do your master's, then you're going to want to consider applying to the following schools. So Manitoba has a program that is a 1-year dietetic training program. program at Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. In Ontario, the government actually requires that practicum training programs are a part of different universities. So Brusha University College, like I mentioned, which is again going to be part of Western, has what's known as the DEP program. So this is the Diploma in Dietetic Education and Practical Training. Northern Ontario School of Medicine has a dietetic practicum program known as the Northern Ontario Dietetic Internship Program. One thing to note with this program, which is known as NODIP, is that the people that apply to this, the goal is that they stay in the northern regions of Ontario. So if you don't want to live up in the northern areas, wouldn't recommend this program, but for those that do, this is a really awesome choice. And then finally, Toronto Metropolitan University, again, formerly known as Ryerson, has what's called the PMDIP, which is the Professional Master's Diploma in Dietetics program. Then we have Nova Scotia. So Nova Scotia Health Authority has an internship program as well. So does New Brunswick at Moncton Hospital. And then finally, in Newfoundland and Labrador, Eastern Health has their own dietetic internship program too. So during this 1-year training, you're going to have to cover a lot of different topics like I mentioned. But in particular, you need to make sure that you have diverse experiences so that you can develop what's known as your core competencies. In order to become a dietitian, you need to demonstrate that you have met these competencies and have experience in them. And you must have competencies in these main areas. So the first one is food and nutrition expertise. So making sure that you are able to utilize your knowledge and apply it to different people and communities. The second one is professionalism and ethics. So making sure that you are able to act in an ethical manner and professionally with other people. The third one is communication and collaboration. So being able to communicate effectively. The fourth one is management and leadership. Dietitians do take large leadership roles, so it is important that people who are training to become dietitians develop these skills. The fifth one is nutrition care. So this is to make sure that they follow what's called the nutrition care process to provide patient care to different people. The sixth one is population health promotion. So being able to not only work with individuals, for example, in a hospital or a private practice, but being able to assess the nutrition and health needs of larger populations. For example, if you were to work in a public health unit. So the seventh one is food provision. So managing and consulting on quantity food provision to support health. So for this particular competency, this is mostly in food management. So for example, working in the hospital kitchen or working in a long-term care setting where you are responsible for designing the different menus, the rotations of menus and different meals to make sure that they are nutritionally adequate for the population at hand. Like I mentioned, throughout your training, to get these competencies, you're going to be put in different training environments. So for example, clinical settings like a hospital or a private practice, public health. So for example, public health units. You'll also be required to work in food management or business management. You may work in family health teams, or if you want to do some elective, you might do it in sports nutrition, or you might do it in media, or you might do it in pediatrics. It really just depends on your interests. But overall, that entire year is meant for you to gain as many hands-on skills as possible in different settings. So for example, when I did my training, I actually had a pretty diverse training and went to a lot of different locations. So for example, I was in a family health team, I was in a public health unit, I did a management rotation, both in long-term care as well as actually in an airport in Jamaica. I also did many clinical rotations in diabetes, surgery, general medicine, as well as nephrology. And on top of that, I even did a media elective as well. One of the biggest recommendations during this time I could give you is to be really open-minded with all of the different experiences. You may think that you want to work in one area, but by the time you've completed all of your rotations, you may have a completely different outlook on what you want to do with your career. So now that I've mentioned the 1-year practicum training, I now want to touch base on what's known as the combined master's program. So basically what a combined master's program is it's a master's degree. So you do have to do a lot of research and you also do your practicum at the same time. This is personally what I did. So I did research with the university that I was at. And then I also did my practicum in the second part of the program while still doing my research so that I could obtain both a master's degree and get in my competencies. So if you decide to do the combined route, then these are some schools that you can apply to in Canada. There aren't as many, but in Ontario, there are quite a few. So Brusha University College, again, it will be called Western University in May 2024, has what's known as the Master of Science in Food and Nutrition Program internship stream. This is the one I did, and you'll notice at the end of my name, I have MSCFN. This is to indicate that I completed my master's degree from this program. Toronto Metropolitan University, which is formerly known as Ryerson, also has a great program. So it's known as the Master of Health Science in Nutrition Communication. I will say that this one isn't as research focused as the one at Brusha is, so keep that in mind. Then we have the University of Guelph, which has the Master of Applied Nutrition. One thing to note is this one's only a year long, so it is really compact. And then finally, we have a program at the University of Toronto known as the Master of Public Health, Nutrition and Dietetics program. This is also a very popular option option for people that want to do some research and they also want to get their practicum training done. And then finally, we have McGill University, which is located in Quebec. They also have a Master of Science in Human Nutrition program where you can combine both a master's and practicum training. Each program is a little bit different, but from my experience in the MSCFN program, what I did was the first year really involved taking different courses to increase my understanding of nutrition and different aspects of health and research. And I also did research with a research advisor. Then in the second year, that's when I did my internship training and I continued to work on my research during that time. All in all, it took me just under 2 years to complete. So now that you've done your practicum training or your master's degree, now it's time to write your exam. So as mentioned, the CDRE exam is known as the Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam, and you must pass this in order to call yourself a dietitian. Basically like the final test. You will write this in an exam center and the test will be on all of the topics that are covered in your practicum training and undergrad, and it'll particularly focus on the core competencies. The thing with the CDRE exam is it kind of depends on where you're writing it in terms of how quickly you'll be able to write it. Sometimes you're able to write it really fast. So I actually wrote mine, I think 3 weeks after I finished my last practicum training, but that is actually pretty rare. Most people end up having to wait about 6 months or so before they can write their exam. So usually they get what's called a temporary license, so they can at least start working and then they write their exam to get their formal official license. So once you have been able to write this exam, again, you're going to write it by registering with the college of your province. So once you have done this and you have passed, you can officially call yourself a registered dietitian. Okay, so let's provide a summary because I know this is a lot of information and it's a little bit confusing. So I wanted to break it down for you as simply as I can. And I made a diagram to help you. So let's look at the first bubble. So the first thing you have to do is after you graduate high school or whenever you want to decide to do this, you need to first apply and get into and complete a 4-year undergraduate degree in nutrition that is from an accredited university. So any of the universities I mentioned. All the university websites will clearly say if it's an accredited program or not. After you have done the 4-year undergraduate degree, then this is the time that you will apply and enter a 1-year practicum or a 2-year master's degree that has an integrated practicum in it. So basically this is an internship that helps train you to become a dietitian and apply what you learned in the 4-year undergrad. Then we move on. Once you've completed all of your training and education, then you can write your Canadian Dietetic Registration Exam or your CDRE. Once you pass this, then you are officially a registered dietitian. So in total, all of this combined, it will probably take you roughly about 5 to 7 years, a little bit more close to 6 years, especially depending on when you write your CDR exam, but generally speaking, about 5 to 7 years in total. To put this into perspective, it's about 4 years for the average person to complete their undergrad, 1 to 2 years to do their practicum or their master's degree, whichever one they choose, and then generally speaking, about 6 months or so before you write your exam. If you're lucky like me and you write it within the first couple weeks after you finish, then you will be done a lot quicker, but it really just depends on when you're able to write your exam, and that largely depends on when it's available and offered in the province you're in. So I hope that helped navigate how to become a dietitian in Canada a little bit better. It is a little complicated, but when you actually go into your undergrad, you have so many resources and awesome people that will help you every year in planning to become a dietitian and get the requirements that you need to become one. So you're not on your own. At least from my personal experience in the program that I did, I had a lot of people that were really supportive and helped me navigate this because it is a little complicated and it can be overwhelming at times. But if you have any questions, I would be happy to try to answer them in the comments below, so feel free to ask. And I really do hope this video is helpful for you and inspired you to become a dietitian because it is an awesome and rewarding career, at least from my experience. And with that, if you did like this video and you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments and make sure that you like this video. Ideally, even share it with someone who wants to become a dietitian or is interested. And please remember to subscribe so you stay a part of the community and continue to learn. And I'll see you in the next video.